This week on the Game Time Guru, I'm joined by Hawkley. Yes, he is back, and he is giving you the information that you need to expand your knowledge on the sport of hockey. He's going to talk about the Idaho Steelheads, NHL Free Agency, the future of the NHL players in the Olympics, as well as some other topics in regards to hockey. We're even diving into the world of soccer today, okay? And if you want a good laugh, stay tuned near the end when I'm trying to talk about the USA soccer team and I mispronounce Josie Altidor's name by saying Jose and Jose. I guess I didn't know what I was talking about, but you live, you learn. Great discussion coming up for you today on the Game Time Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time! Woo!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Game Time Guru. I'm Shane Larson, and today I'm joined by Hawkley, again, coming at you with our hockey expert, but we got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. But I first want to say, what's up, CC, and ask you how it's been since the last time we spoke.
Hey, Shane, how you doing?
Not too bad.
Man, there's a lot that's going on in the sports world. The summertime, it just... the NBA free agent talk, the NHL free agent talk, and of course you got NFL football coming up and the camp starting and everything. It's an exciting time just for sports and in the sports world, and I'm excited to be here again, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here again. Thanks, Shane.
For sure, man, and I'm excited to have you. But right now, let's put the skates on, get into our local Idaho Steelheads talk with some quick hits.
Quick hits.
So, first and foremost, the division realignment in the ECHL. Let's start talking about that. So, the division rival of the Idaho Steelheads, the Alaska Aces, folded this offseason, and the KC Mavericks, the Kansas City Mavericks, were in the Mountain Division last year. They are moving back to the Central Division, and there are going to be some new Mountain Division teams coming in this coming year. The Wichita Thunder and the Tulsa Oilers will join the Idaho Steelheads in the Mountain Division, along with the Colorado Eagles, the Utah Grizzlies, the Allen Americans, and the Rapid City Rush. The next hit we have is our head coach, Neil Graham, has been offered a contract extension through the 2018-2019 season. He was hired as a head coach prior to the 2015-2016 season, and he is the second youngest coach in the ECHL at age 32. So he's been with the organization for 6 seasons. He was a player assistant for one of those years and a regular assistant for 2 of those years. He led the Steelheads to 2 playoff berths and 43 wins in 72 games last year. His head coaching record in 2 seasons is 81 wins, 46 losses, and 17 overtime losses. Steelheads captain Jefferson Dahl returns for a 4th season with the Idaho Steelheads, signing a 1-year deal for the 2017-2018 season. The 27-year-old forward has played 180 games for the Idaho Steelheads the past 3 seasons, scoring 22 goals 2 of those seasons and having 66 points in 70 games last season. Those have been your Idaho Steelheads quick hits.
In regards to those quick hits, just wanted to mention one thing. CC talked about Coach Graham being age 32. I'm creeping up on that number here soon, and it makes me kind of jealous that he's 32, gets the extension. He's already been coaching for quite a while. He's been with the organization for 6 seasons. What am I doing with my life? What do you think? What do you think, man?
Well, he would still be playing hockey if it was up to him.
Oh, really? Okay.
He actually got sidelined with injuries.
One of those situations.
Yeah, so he got sidelined with injuries early on in his career, and that's why he became a player assistant. And so that's why he was an assistant coach. When the former coach, Brad Ralph, actually took a job in the OHL, I want to say, the Ontario Hockey League, then it was given the opportunity to Coach Graham to take over. Because he was already part of the program, and he actually was the youngest coach in the ECHL when he was hired at age 30. I'm with you there. I mean, I'm 30 years old too, and I'm just like, man, these guys, head coach of a hockey team, but it was because he already kind of had an in, and he no longer was available as a player. So
so it's his way of like staying in the game, though.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that more power to him. The fact that he can't play anymore is a bummer. However, being able to coach is a wonderful second chance opportunity for Coach Graham.
Oh, heck yeah.
Sure.
And he's been successful. So,
yeah.
Well, I mean, judging by his record, it's pretty successful, especially for somebody who's that young. That's awesome, though.
Absolutely.
Now, Jumping into the next topic, though, CC, you want to go over some NHL free agency talk for us?
Yeah, there was one actually kind of free agent signing that did not happen that I thought was kind of interesting. So defenseman Andrei Markov for the Montreal Canadiens is heading to the Continental Hockey League in Russia. So he did not sign back with the Montreal Canadiens this year. He's 37 years old. He's played 16 seasons in the NHL only with Montreal, and he signed a 2-year contract with the Kazan Akbars. And I thought that was rather interesting because a lot of Russian players, back in the late 80s, early 90s when the USSR was failing, a lot of Russian players wanted to leave the Soviet Union to join the NHL. Now in the twilight of their careers, a lot of Russian players and a couple Czech players as well, I'll mention them in here in a second, but they want to go back to Russia. They want to go to the KHL so that they can finish their career there and get big money because the Russian leagues have a lot of money to spare and you have these big names from the NHL, so they're going to drop some coin to be able to sign them. So a few examples are Ilya Kovalchuk. Man, say that name 10 times.
Yeah, I won't
fast.
try it.
So he was a former number 1 pick in 2001 for the Atlanta Thrashers. He's played the last 4.5 seasons in the KHL. He's still kind of in his prime. He's 34 years old.
Right.
So he just went over there to avoid a contract issue that he had with the New Jersey Devils. And he's kind of been kicking around the idea of coming back to the NHL. But, being a Russian guy, he went over back to his homeland and got paid big bucks to play for the KHL. So another good example is Pavel Datsyuk. He was with the Detroit Red Wings, and he's in the twilight of his career, so he kind of falls under the Markov, he kind of falls under that category in the sense that he's in the twilight of his career. He's going to get paid big bucks to go back home and play for the KHL. And some other examples are Alexei Yashin. He played 5 seasons in the KHL after his NHL career. Sergei Zubov played 1 season at the end of his career. Sergei Fedorov, 3 seasons at the end of his career. And the Czechoslovakian or Czech Republic folks that I was talking about were Yuri Hidler. He played in the KHL in 2009, 2010, and the first half of the lockout-shortened season of 2012 to 2013. And somebody that you might be familiar with, actually, Shane, Jaromir Jagr.
Oh, yes, I know Jagr.
You know Jagr. He's been around forever. So he played in the KHL and some Czech leagues in 2004, 2005 when the whole NHL season was locked out. And he also played in the KHL from 2008 to 2011 and in the Czech league in the lockout-shortened season of 2012 to 2013. And it's funny because Jaromir Jagr, in that lockout-shortened season, he was actually going to come to Boise with the Dallas Stars to play a preseason game against the Minnesota Wild at CenturyLink Arena. However, because the lockout occurred, the preseason games got canceled. And so we had, I think they had like 4,200 seats sold for that game.
Right.
And they had like 800 left, and they were probably going to sell out the CenturyLink Arena. It's an NHL game. Essentially, a preseason game.
I remember that, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
You do? Did you have tickets for that?
I did not have tickets. I remember that whole thing going down, though, and I was like, oh, man, that's a bummer. That's a bummer for the hockey fans, man.
Yeah, and it was. I had tickets for me and a few friends, and I bought like a 4-pack, and thankfully they gave out refunds.
Okay. Did they? All right.
They did, and they credited my account back, and I had to disperse it amongst my friends and everything. But to be able to see a legend like Jaromir Jagr play in person, that would have been really cool. But alas, it was not to be. So
bummer, man.
So to kind of segue into what you were talking about on your last podcast,
right.
Players going into international leagues and things like that. I know that the NBA kind of does the same thing with like China, with people in the twilight in their careers, and they're ending kind of their prime and their run in the NBA, and they can go still make money in Europe and in China. I mean, do you got any specific examples of how that could be kind of tied into the NHL, KHL sort of thing I brought up?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So in regards to some of the players that go over to China, the money's there, and like if you look at Stephon Marbury, he was over in China at the twilight of his career, kind of went over there, had a little falling out with the NBA, goes over there, makes millions. He becomes like this star player. Now you hear a guy named Jimmer Fredette, who's still in his prime, I believe. Jimmer Fredette, he's a younger guy. He just signed a $1.8 million deal over in China. And the crazy thing about that is like they're choosing to go over there rather than try to make their way through the NBA because, I mean, for one, it's tax-free money. They get all their expenses paid for. They get, housing, everything. Cars, everything's paid for, and then they actually get a tax credit from the government here because the teams over there pay their taxes. So it's a win-win-win-win situation for them and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, they're choosing to go over there because, like you said, kind of with the KHL, there's a lot of money out there to, just, give out there to these bigger name players. And plus, those, fan bases over there like to see the bigger names over there. So it brings a lot of publicity and exposure to the sport in those countries.
Oh, yes, most definitely. I mean, with guys going back to the KHL, I mean, you still got American and Canadian young guys that if they can't make it in the NHL or AHL or even the ECHL, to go to Russia and to go to Czech, leagues and even Swedish leagues and, throughout Europe, they can go make better money over there. Of course, you got to factor in, the culture shock and things like that. But, when you're a 20, 22-year-old kid, going over there or even, 18 or 19, it can be a lot more of a shock than when you're 35, 37, 39, like Steph Marbury was. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but if the money's there, then the players are gonna kind of flock over there.
Oh, absolutely. So, and I have a question for you in regards to the KHL.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, I know that last week when I was speaking to Victor regarding, the international game compared to the G League, a lot of the reasons that people the NBA teams won't look over there a lot for their players as much anymore because of the fact that the international game is so much different than the NBA because court size is shorter, three-point line is shorter, the basketball is actually smaller. It's just a little bit different, and minor differences. But is the KHL explain the differences, or if there is any, from the KHL to the NHL? Are there any differences in international?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, so it's actually the opposite for the KHL and for international leagues as well. International play, the rink is bigger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the rink size is actually bigger than a normal NHL regulation size rink. So that is kind of an opposite thing that they share in common is that the international game is much more open. It's much more spread out. So there's a lot more room for strategy to develop in regards to just a bigger game and just more room to maneuver and more plays that you can draw up and more space to move around. So I think that would be one of the major differences in that. And I'm sure there's little nuances and rules here and there that I'm not familiar with, but like anything, the Americans have kind of their own way of going about things.
Right.
Or at least the North Americans, because NHL Canadian base as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
I got you. Okay. Right on. Now, let's talk about Mike Fisher. Who's Mike Fisher, and what can we learn right now about him? What's going on with the news there?
So Mike Fisher was the captain of the Nashville Predators, so the Western Conference champions, and they played the Pittsburgh Penguins to 6 games unsuccessfully in the Stanley Cup final this year. Now he's 37 years old. He's 37 years old, and he decided to call it quits. He's decided to retire. Now the Predators have already lost another captain of theirs, an alternate captain in James Neal, to the expansion draft.
Yes, you talked about that.
Yes, I did. So he's on the Vegas Knights now. Now that Mike Fisher has retired, he ultimately didn't put Nashville back into a corner in regards to a contract, because when you have older players that have been with a team forever, sometimes it can be a bit of a debacle when you're re-signing, and it's like, how much do you sign them for? I think opposite examples of that are like Dirk Nowitzki and Tim Duncan. They did it the right way, and I think Mike Fisher's doing it the right way as well. So he decided to call it quits to help the Preds and to avoid any contract issues and things like that. So he played 17 seasons between Nashville and Ottawa. He helped lead the Predators to the Stanley Cup final, like I told you. He had 276 goals, 309 assists, and he played 1,088 games. Another thing about Mike Fisher is that he's married to someone by the name of Carrie Underwood. You may have heard of her.
All right.
Yeah, so he kind of gets the playful nickname as Mr. Carrie Underwood and Trophy Husband.
Heck yeah, I'd take it.
I would too. I mean, Carrie Underwood, she's a cute little Christian girl, Yeah. So I mean, I'd take Mr. Carrie Underwood.
Take the title and run with it, man.
Take the title and run with it. So Mike Fisher called it a career this offseason as well. And, yeah.
Seems like it was a good career for him, though. Good for him. Good for him.
Absolutely. And to make the Stanley Cup final in the last year of his career, I think he's probably like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. That was good.
He's accomplished enough now. That was just, it would have been better if he won it, but you know what? You made it there. A lot of people can't even say that, so.
Stockton and Malone?
Yeah.
Come on.
As Jazz fans, we can't bring that up because it's devastating.
All right.
It's devastating.
All right.
But they were the greatest duo to ever play, in my opinion. That never won a championship, I should say.
You are correct.
All right, so here's something for the listeners. Okay, so CC is such a good guy that he was he was wanting to come onto the show today and make some quote-unquote corrections from his last time on the show, which was episode 15. If y'all want to go back and listen to that, it's really informative as well. But he wanted to make some corrections, so I'm going to give him that opportunity. If it was me, I wouldn't even have known. So he's a good guy. He wants to make that correction for himself and save face, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. But go ahead and make your episode 15 corrections, my man.
All right. Thanks, Shane. So I had said in episode 15 that the Washington Capitals player Jay Beagle was with the Steelheads for a number of seasons. It turns out he only played 8 games with the Idaho Steelheads, so I made him sound a lot more tenured with our local club than he actually was. So that's the first one. The second one is the Beanpot Tournament. I mentioned 4 teams. 3 of them were correct, but one of them was not. And that last one was Union College. The Union College Dutchmen are actually based out in New York, and they won the 2014 NCAA hockey tournament. And so that's why they were fresh in my head, is because they were an underdog and, they were just one that wasn't mentioned very often. The 4th team of the Beanpot is Harvard. And I just had a brain for it. And I'm like, how could you not include Harvard and Boston, But you've got Boston College, Boston University, Northeastern, and Harvard. So those are the Beanpot teams. The third thing I'm correcting is the Minnesota North Stars. So I just had a little case of dyslexia and said that they were created in 1976. When they were actually an expansion team in 1967. Now, the last one, speaking of James Neal, bringing him up again, I'd said James Neal had 9 goals in the Stanley Cup final, when actually it was 9 goals in the 2017 playoffs altogether. So that may seem like a little bit of a minor thing, but, I'm a stickler for details, and I'd rather apologize and say, okay, my facts weren't right. You're calling me the hockey expert here, and I'm boggling my facts up and everything. So I got to come back, got to correct. Got to ask for a little repentance here.
Dude, I like it, man. I respect that a lot. If you got people out there fact checking, you might as well just be the first one to cut it off right there. So
absolutely. When I listen back and I'm like, all right, well, these are the facts I got wrong. So there you have it.
Good man. Good man. Now, as you guys know, CC not only joins me on the podcast from time to time, he also is a contributing writer for thegametimeguru.com. And one of his latest articles was regarding our new downtown stadium in Boise, Idaho. Do you want to first just discuss the article that you wrote, and then I'm going to ask a few questions. At least I have some I still want to get to, but explain to the listeners, if they haven't read it already, why they should read it and what it's about.
Okay, so the basic summary is that the Boise Hawks went under new ownership. The local baseball team here, the single A short season baseball team that Boise has, the ownership group that owns the Boise Hawks wants a new stadium, and they want to put it in downtown Boise. Now, they don't want to just do it for the Boise Hawks. They want to do it for a minor league soccer team as well. Mm-hmm. So the United Soccer League is the league right below the Major League Soccer, MLS. And they want to lure a team and lure a franchise, not to relocate, but an expansion franchise. They want to build a stadium that's not only minor league baseball ready, but also USL, United Soccer League team ready. And there's a couple examples of teams that share a facility. Reno, Nevada has one of those stadiums. So yeah, it's just a matter of, clearing the land and getting the space ready for a stadium to be built in either 2019 or 2020.
Nice. Yeah. And that article is actually really, really informative, as are all of his articles. CC is a really good, a great writer for that matter. He's great at writing. He's one of the better writers I've actually worked with. I used to write for a website where I had a team of writers for the Dallas Cowboys, and I can tell you right now that CC puts out better work than every single one of them. So,
ooh, wow.
Yeah, it's really good. So if you haven't read any of his stuff, go to www.thegametimeguru.com and check out his articles. They are phenomenal. Now, CC, you mentioned in there an interesting point. So for any Idahoans that might be listening to this, it was an interesting point regarding the Californians. You always hear the Idahoans saying, oh, we got all these people from California moving and they need to knock it off. We need to close off Idaho so no more Californians can come in. Well, it's funny because it's actually interesting in regards to how that impacts the fan base for baseball. Can you explain a little bit about that, like what you meant when you were talking about Californians coming to Idaho and how that impacts the fan base for baseball? Or sorry, the fan base for baseball. I think I said it right.
Go ahead. I think you did too. Yeah. So something I noticed about California is that they have 5 Major League Baseball teams. Yeah. So they they love, I mean, they've got so many minor league teams there as well. I think they've got like 20 plus minor league teams. But when you've got a state population and area wise as big as California, you're going to have a lot of professional teams, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, or even soccer.
Right.
The LA Galaxy are going to get a second, LA is going to get a second team, soccer team as well. So it's like Californians, I saw on the news earlier this year that 15,000 Californians came to Idaho last year, 2016. 15,000 Californians. Now,
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
hey now. Hey. No, I mean, and a lot of the Californians I've run into, they're wearing their San Francisco Giants caps. They're wearing their Anaheim, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, to use their full name these days. They're wearing their ball caps and stuff, and they're representing here in Idaho. And I see that, and I talk with them a little bit here and there, and I ask them, "Oh, are you from California?" And just kind of make it a talking point. I'm in customer service, so that's what I do for a living. I talk to people. So the fact that you have so many Californians coming in, to build a new ballpark in downtown Boise and to make it more accommodating for everybody and to make it bigger and to make it so that the sun isn't beating down on the third base lines in the middle of the summer, like we have to deal with at current Boise Memorial Stadium.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hawks Memorial Stadium. Having so many Californians come in, there's so many sports teams there, not just baseball, but we're talking, hockey, we're talking basketball, we're talking, football.
Right.
You've got these people that are coming in that already have sports ingrained in them, and they're willing to embrace the local culture now. They're willing to embrace the Steelheads. They're willing to embrace the Hawks. And I think a soccer team would flourish here. I do. And so they're willing to probably embrace that within the next few years when that stadium gets built. The more and more people that are coming in from California, from Oregon, from Washington, you've got the built-in rivalry of the Portland Timbers and the Seattle Sounders.
Right.
So to have Boise maybe start a rivalry with Reno, Nevada, I mean, it's just a quick, I say quick, quote unquote, but I think it's like 6 hours between here and Reno.
Yeah.
But to have that kind of, that kind of close proximity rivalry that could be established in the USL, I think it'd be great. I think it'd just be a microcosm of what the Sounders and Timbers bring to, the Cascade Cup, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. So in the topic of soccer, right? We're talking about the USL. We're talking about soccer. I wanted to make my point here in regards to soccer in Boise. I think it has a chance, and I think this would be a really great opportunity. We have this, we've got so many, not just Californians. I mean, we make jokes about it. We got people coming from everywhere, like you just mentioned. It's influencing the culture here, and it's helping us expand our minds. For so long, people have this mindset of like, soccer is garbage. They don't want it here. They don't want it here. But we actually have a pretty big fan base for soccer. It's surprisingly big, and I think it would flourish. I think with the influence of all these people coming from out of town, as well as the local fans that are already here, I think soccer could flourish here. And so, I mean, I'm excited to see what happens if we can potentially get a team here. I think you're going to be selling that out all the time. But let's talk a little bit about soccer. What's the future of USA Soccer?
So USA Soccer, I mean, they've got this young kid on their team, and I believe I think he's 18 years old now. I mean, a lot of the stuff I've been seeing, he was 17, but I think he's at least 18 or 19 years old now. His name is, I want to pronounce this right, Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic. There we go.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So he's from Hershey, Pennsylvania. He's an All-American kid. He went over to play pro soccer. Well, he got signed to a kind of a developmental league in Germany.
Okay.
And so he started over there, I think, when he was 15 years old, and he got brought up through that club system that has been known to nurture and to develop young players like Christian, like Mr. Pulisic. I need to use
P. We'll just call him Christian P.
Christian Pulisic. There we go. So he currently plays for Dortmund in Germany, and so in the German Bundesliga. And like I said, they are a team that is known for developing young talent. And to see, Christian Pulisic play on the US national team, I mean, the kid is just money. Like, he has 9 goals in international play since he started playing for the national squad in March 2016. And he is the future of USA soccer. Now, a lot of people are like, yeah, he can only score close to the goal, and he can't hit the long shots. But I've seen his clips, when him playing in the Bundesliga. He can score from a distance as well. I mean, a lot of his international goals have been at close range, but the kid's got a lot of talent, and it really gives me a lot of hope for USA soccer. I'm not a big soccer fan, but as abysmal as we have been the past few years, it's like, yeah, this is our hope. This is our what we attach it to.
I'm worried though. I mean, I'm really excited for the potential of this kid coming up, but I'm also worried that it might turn out to be, Altidore version 2. Like Jose Altidore, Jose, I'm speaking Portuguese. Jose Altidore. Okay, so anyways, he's still good. He came in though, and we had this high hopes for him. And I mean, he battled some injuries, especially in the last World Cup, pulled his hamstring. I just hope that I think Altidore still has something, right? He's a stud, but I just hope it's not one of those where it's we're waiting on him. Before you know it, 8 years pass, haven't done anything in the World Cup. All of a sudden, dude's out of the league. So I'm just hoping that for one, I still hope Altidore has something left to give, and for two, I hope this kid develops a little bit quicker and we don't see an unfortunate injury.
Yes, yeah, that can derail anybody's young career, and that's totally understandable. But let me ask you this: Did Altidore, when he was younger, did he go to a foreign league?
I don't know, and I don't think he did. I never heard about it, so I couldn't tell you.
No, it's all good. So I think that's a key difference.
Okay.
I think when you cut your teeth when you're a young player and you go over to the soccer-rich environment, whether you're playing in the Bundesliga, whether you're playing in the English Premier League, or whether you're playing in Spanish La Liga, or you're even playing in the Greek League or the Italian League, if you're playing in one of those major leagues in Europe, I mean, they live and breathe soccer.
Yeah.
Soccer to them is like what football is to us Americans. It's
Yes.
like what hockey is to the Canadians. I mean, pretty much everywhere else in the world, soccer is the sport. I mean, you've got little pockets here and there that are big cricket enthusiasts and things like that. You're talking
Right.
India, Pakistan, a lot of former British Commonwealths, but soccer is king in the world. I mean, soccer. I mean, you look at the ESPN 100 richest athletes, and you've got Ronaldo. You've got
Yes,
Ronaldo.
there you go. I like it.
You've got Ronaldo on there. You've got Lionel Messi on there. It's like these guys are making big money, and it's not just because they're playing in these big leagues. I mean, soccer is a worldwide thing. Even in America, you've got a whole lot of fans that are contributing to merchandise and things
Right.
like that. So, in regards to Pulisic's, journey to Germany when he's 15 years old and his dad takes a job with one of the youth leagues there and chaperones him there. I mean, it's just he has developed so much. I watched a video on it today. I mean, he's just developed so much even in that short span of time, and he's got to continually do that.
Right.
Like all the good players do. They continually get better, and but just the fact that he's so young. I mean, and he's cut his teeth in a major league like Bundesliga. It's like.
So that's the deciding factor right now. If we're talking about the two I just compared,
right?
We got a little. It's not comparing apples to apples. It's apples to oranges because he's had a lot more development coming up.
Sure.
A lot more reason to be excited.
It's not like. Do you remember Eddie Adu?
I do.
Yeah.
Wasn't he 14 or something?
He was 14 years old,
Yeah.
and he got signed to the MLS.
I do remember.
Back
and I
in
don't even
the
pay attention
day.
to soccer.
Oh yeah. See, that was huge news. It's like Eddie Adu is the new hope, and it's like no, because he didn't cut his teeth in a major European league.
See,
Seriously.
I like that. Nice point you made right there.
Eddie Adu was in the MLS at 14, and it's like, yeah, you throw him in there, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, get ready to fly.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I can't even imagine
that.
I can't even imagine that. So,
all right, so we've got high hopes for the U.S. men's soccer team going forward. Didn't we just win the Gold Cup?
we did. Yeah. So in the CONCACAF tournament, which is basically North America and Central America,
Right.
We defeated Jamaica in the final, which is funny because Pulisic didn't even play in the final.
Okay.
U.S. men's soccer coach Bruce Arenas decided not to play Pulisic. So, and this roster is going to be completely different than what we have in the World Cup anyway, because
Okay.
you're going to have guys that develop. You're going to have guys that are on hot streaks. It's just like any any Olympic year. You're going to want the hot hand.
Right.
You're going to want the guys that have been performing. It's a little different when you've got like basketball players. Sometimes you got the tenured players like Kobe Bryant
right.
that are like, I want one more Olympic, but men's soccer is a little different because you assemble the best team. You have the big names, You've got the guys like, well, up and coming like Pulisic, but you've also got Tim Howard, the goaltender. He's in the twilight of his career as well.
Right.
So he's probably going to be on the squad, but normally you get the best players and you assemble the best team, and yeah, you just kind of go from there. Jurgen Klinsmann, the previous U.S. men's soccer coach, he got a lot of guff during the 2014 World Cup because he did not put Landon Donovan.
I remember Donovan.
On the team. Yeah,
he didn't go. I remember.
Right. And that was kind of a point and a bone of contention for a lot of soccer fans because it's like Landon Donovan is one of the best American players of all time.
Right.
And so to not put him on that squad, even though he was in the twilight of his career, come on. Even if you don't play him a lot, you at least got to put him on the squad. And we did awful. I mean, under Jurgen Klinsmann, our team was, it was pretty abysmal, It was, yeah. It was 60. He had a 60% win percentage in competition and 53% in friendlies. He was the coach for 5 years from 2011 to 2016, but just his style, and he was just staunch. And yeah, we definitely needed a change. And so to bring in Bruce Arenas, who was a previous coach for the U.S. men's soccer team in the past, to bring him in and to give another breath of fresh air, I think it was a much needed change. So, yeah.
Sometimes the coaching changes in any sport are huge. It kind of reminds me of like Doc Rivers. People will say he's a great coach. He has this energy behind him. He talks a big game, and he just never seems to win. He's got one title with the Celtics, right? We're talking NBA. It kind of reminds me of Klinsmann. I remember him coming in, and people were pretty sold on him, and he had a lot of energy. And I actually watched a documentary on him pulling the players, like how the trainings went and all this for the U.S. men's team. And it was cool. He had a lot of energy, but it just seemed like he couldn't get past that step. So a good coaching change. It seems like you said, new coach is doing pretty well so far. He's young into this reign with him right now, but
right.
Seems like he's doing all right.
He's doing good. And if another thing is that if the players don't buy in, Bruce Arenas has a great track record. And not to say that Jurgen Klinsmann did not, because he kind of did too. But Bruce Arenas is established in the American, soccer fabric. Like he's an American, and he's been part of U.S. soccer in one way or another for, I'd say upwards of 20 years, at least in coaching. And so, to bring him in and to kind of rejuvenate the program, it's kind of like, it's kind of bringing a coach in from yesteryear at an old college alma mater.
Right.
Look what, I guess you could use a local example like Brian Harsin.
Right.
He went and coached at Arkansas State for a few years, and then he came back after Coach Pete left.
Right.
And it's always good when you get somebody in the alma mater. And I think in regards to U.S. soccer, the players bought in more. To go back to basketball, look at David Blatt in Cleveland.
Oh, yeah.
He completely lost the locker room, and LeBron is just like, I want him out.
Exactly.
I don't know why LeBron turned into a Russian just now.
It sounds fine.
He's just like, out. You're done. See ya.
Maybe that's how he's gotten his way with everything. He just turns into a Russian every single time he goes to the front office.
He just turns into Ivan Drago.
I like it.
If he dies, he dies. It's just like, no. But, it's the same thing. Like, Blatt lost the locker room, or he at least lost LeBron, and LeBron turned the locker room against him.
Right.
And then he brought in Tyronn Lue. And what did Tyronn Lue? He was a former player. Mm-hmm. He had that street cred, if you will.
Yes.
So he had, yeah. So it's kind of the same thing. Bruce Arenas comes in and he's rejuvenating the program and kind of, cobbling and piecing together. So I say cobbling, but cobbling has got a negative connotation. But he's piecing together a good squad going into the 2018 World Cup. So
speaking of the 2018 World Cup, so this is, regardless if you're a soccer fan or not, everybody should be able to admit this. If you're a sports fan of any kind, everybody watches the World Cup. They always pay attention to it. And my friends will even say that, they hate soccer, but it happens so rare. It's so like 4 years, every 4 years, right? Every so often, but they'll put on the shows, they'll watch them, they'll watch every game because they know it's only going to happen every 4 years. And so this is the biggest, most watched event in the entire world. And I want to know if we got the new coach, we got an upcoming player that's, looking promising. What's the chance that USA has in the World Cup coming up in 18?
I think maybe they'll make it to the round of 16 this year.
Okay.
I don't see them getting beyond that, unfortunately. I mean, they've got a younger team. They still got older players like Clint Dempsey and Tim Howard, but they've got such a young squad, and with Bruce Arenas, I mean, we'll see. I could be pleasantly surprised and we can get to the round of 8 maybe.
Okay.
But I'm going to guess at the most round of 16. That's kind of the high end of where I would bet them at, but I'd say probably the round of 32.
Okay.
Because, like I said, it's just a young team, and you got to congeal, and you're going up against teams like Brazil and Germany, even Great Britain. Wales can even have a puncher's chance. Teams like, you've got these teams where soccer is just inbred into their culture, and even like Iceland's run 4 years ago. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Iceland, yeah. Iceland was pushing ahead. I think they made the quarterfinals.
Okay.
So, yeah, Iceland kind of went on a run there too. You've always got your Cinderella stories.
Right.
So that even happens in the World Cup. So if the United States pleasantly surprises me and they get beyond that, they're establishing a good foundation. Like I said, I think getting rid of Klinsmann was a necessary step, and going back to Bruce Arenas was important. So we'll see. That'll be next summer. And we'll see how much improvement and how much, winning the Gold Cup didn't hurt. Winning the Gold Cup was definitely a good feather in their hat. So we'll definitely see, going through these qualifying matches and everything. The U.S. usually qualifies for the World Cup, and if they didn't, that would be a huge disappointment. It'd just be such a bitter disappointment, I think, for this squad.
That'd be awful.
Yeah, agreed.
Man, okay, so to finish up real quick, speaking of soccer and U.S. soccer, here in Boise, when this airs, which will be Friday, we're actually speaking on a Tuesday. I'm not afraid to say that. Yeah, we're speaking on a Tuesday. It's going to be airing on Friday. We've got the U.S. and Brazilian U.S. Arena Soccer League teams coming in. I'm actually really excited for this. I got tickets. I'm going to go see it. One, I lived in Brazil for 2 years, so I kind of have a little tie there, but I do want to see it. It's not the same thing as obviously like, field soccer, like the real game, but it's arena, and it's probably actually pretty exciting. I was watching some YouTube videos on it, and I was like, all right, it's kind of like futsal, but it's a little bit different, like arena league soccer is a little bit different than futsal, but I love futsal, so I think it's a little bit more comparable. I'm jacked to see it. I'm curious to see the support that we get from the local community. I want to see if we sell that stadium out. I know that there's a lot of people going. A lot of the people I follow on Facebook and Twitter are going, but then again, that's not the entire city of Boise. So I don't know. Well, I know you're not going to go to it, but are you excited about it? Or have you heard anything about this game?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got plans that night, so I won't be able to go. But I'll just leave you with this. So kind of going back to my article about soccer and having a potential soccer team in Boise. So there was 2 major events that occurred in consecutive years. So you had Tijuana versus Atletico Bilbao. You had a Mexican team versus basically the Basque team that plays in that region between Spain and France. And they had an exhibition here at Albertson Stadium, where the Boise State Broncos play football. They covered the blue with sod. So that was interesting to have this huge soccer field at Albertson Stadium. And that was in July of 2015. They drew almost 22,000 fans. So 21,948 people showed up for a soccer friendly in Boise, Idaho.
There is support there, and there's a huge Basque culture here too, and they love that. They love the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge Basque culture here. There's a lot of people coming in from Mexico. Like, we have a big Hispanic population here as well.
Right.
And I think that's also why the next year there was an actual USL matchup between the Portland Timbers 2, which is obviously the minor league team for the Portland Timbers, and the Swope Park Rangers, who's the minor league team of Sporting Kansas City. Now, that was at
Rocky Mountain.
That was at Rocky Mountain. I almost said Mountain View, but it's Rocky Mountain High School. That was at their football stadium, and they packed that stadium with over 4,300 fans, so 4,352 fans, and there was people waiting outside that wanted to get in but couldn't because they sold all the tickets.
Let me tell you about that game. My friend's dad lives right behind Rocky Mountain High School.
Okay.
So, they live in the subdivision right behind it. And that was the most packed I've ever seen a high school stadium in Idaho, at least, because they're smaller, but, it was packed, and it was loud. Like, he lives right behind it. We could hear everything going on. Everyone's screaming. Obviously, the announcers, they had all the sound equipment, like a little bit better than what a normal high school game would be. They hyped it up a little bit.
Sure.
That place was rocking. So we got support here in the local community. That high school was so loud across the whole city of Meridian. Like, it was amazing. So, I mean, we've got the support we need. Just like you said, I mean, it was packed. So...
Yeah, I mean, if we're kicking around the idea of getting a USL squad ourselves, I don't see why CenturyLink Arena won't at least have a good... I mean, unless they just didn't advertise well at all, because that's happened with events in the past, So, but I think if the advertising's good, I mean, there's a big soccer community here. I think this I would hope it would be another feather in the cap for Boise and for the Treasure Valley to say, hey, we need a minor league soccer squad here. Why not?
So if you're listening to this and it's Friday morning and you haven't gotten tickets yet and there still happens to be some out there, go buy them. They're not that expensive, like $15. Just go buy some tickets. $25 for like the good seats, but every seat in CenturyLink Arena is really good. So anyways, go check it out. All right, CC, we're going to sound off here, but do you have anything else that you'd like to say before we head out?
I think we've covered pretty much everything that we needed to. I'm looking forward to, coming back on here and talking football and talking, just talking sports with you in general is always a blessing and a good thing for me. And it's good to talk with somebody who's as passionate as I am, if not more. So again,
for sure.
Again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for the chance to write articles for you and everything. And I am deeply appreciative. Thank you, Shane.
Well, I appreciate you, man. And for the listeners, check out his articles. CC is going to be coming out with some good ones here in the near future, and he'll for sure be back on the show here in a couple of weeks. We'll be talking football because, like you guys know, football's starting in about 3-4 weeks. Keep looking out for that because we can get really passionate talking about our football teams too. So anyways, this is the Game Time Guru. We'll talk to you guys next week.